All right. Well, I'm here with Beth Erickson of Visit Loudoun. I'm really happy to get you on the show. Beth, how are you?
I am well, thank you, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, good. Good. The purpose of my podcast is to promote the craft beverage industry in the DMV. And that certainly includes Northern Virginia and Loudoun County, where you are. And I'll tell you that before I did this podcast, I did another podcast called Real Estate, Wine, and More. And I interviewed people other than winemakers and craft brewers, but certainly since it's in the title, I had a lot of winemakers on the show, especially some from Loudoun County. And what I noticed when doing research for them is that I just felt of all the municipalities and county governments or local governments, that Loudoun seemed to do the best job in promoting their industry, their craft beverage industry. And then the second part I want to say is that recently I interviewed Bill Hatch from Zephaniah. And I always ask my guests, who would be somebody that you would recommend I get on the show? And the first person he mentioned was a fellow winemaker, but the second name out of his mouth was yours. And he said, she's the person to speak to if you want to talk to somebody about the wine industry in Northern Virginia. So
Wow, what a lovely, lovely way to start the conversation. I'm a huge fan of Bill and everything that they're doing at Zephaniah. And I'm excited about the conversation. And I agree with you. I think Loudoun County has, for many reasons, which I know we're going to get into, really hit on the secret sauce of what makes a wine destination successful. And it has been deliberate. It's been over decades, which I think has grown along with our winemakers to really highlight and promote the craft beverage industry here in Loudoun County, which is certainly more than just wine. It's beer, it's cider, it's mead, and it's distilled spirits in addition to wine. So I think you can sum up today's discussion by, we in Loudoun County like our hooch, and it works for us. So I'm delighted. I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
first, let's talk about you and also Visit Loudoun. How long have you been with Visit Loudoun? And give us a little background of that organization.
Sure. So I've been with Visit Loudoun, I think, coming on 8 or 9 years, but have been involved with the organization long before then. I've lived in Loudoun County since 1987, when the gentleman that I ended up marrying invited me out to dinner. He lived in Middleburg, and drove out, saw the beautiful countryside, went up Foxcroft Road, went to where he was renting a carriage house, absolutely fell in love with not only Loudoun County, but my husband.
Yeah.
And I've been here ever since. So I've been a long time in Loudoun County to see the change and to see the growth of the industry. But more importantly, it really is a place that I'm incredibly proud of and truly, truly love. So we just celebrated, Visit Loudoun just celebrated, or we would have commemorated our 25th anniversary this past May at our annual meeting, which of course was postponed because of COVID. But the organization has been at the very beginning of really this massive expansion into the craft beverage industry, and has worked very closely with Loudoun Economic Development, which is the part of the county government that really, I think, lit a fire on the fuse when it came down to the success of Loudoun County as a craft beverage destination.
I like to tell this story about, I went to college in Georgia in the early 80s. And I came back one summer, and I remember the style section. This is probably mid 80s. Style section of the Washington Post had this article about the Virginia wine tour, or going through vineyards in Virginia. And even though I have family from Virginia, they're not from wine country. Well, now it's wine country. It's Western Virginia, Bedford, Lynchburg area. And, I just didn't know wine was being produced there to the point where you could actually tour wineries. And when I asked my friends, have you heard about this? Have you gone there? The ones who had terrible reviews. I mean, they were just like, oh, the wine was terrible. And then and I wasn't really a wine drinker back then. Then I guess fast forward a good 20 years for me. and I discover a Virginia wine country that is just blossomed into, I think, producing some of the best wine in the nation. That's why one of the purposes of this podcast is to let people know. When did Visit Loudoun, as far as you know, and they may have been doing this before you joined the organization, decide to make the wine tour or wineries a big focus of the tourist industry here?
Sure. What's funny is your story is very familiar. And, I went to college in Virginia also in the early 80s. And I remember my husband at that time worked a lot with the growing or the start of the Virginia wine industry. And he worked for Meredith Vineyards, which was right over the line in Fauquier County. So we went to a lot of wine shows at the very, in the early 80s and mid 80s. And it was a really small, scrappy group of people that were passionate about producing really good wine. It was a new industry. It was an industry that was built on a lot of history, of course, with Thomas Jefferson and what he was looking to do down in Monticello. But I think what was so exciting was it was this feeling of being on the cusp of something that people truly believed was going to be great. And so I think that it just took the time to catch up from those early pioneers. And I know that, Willowcroft was opened in like around that time, 1984. So that was probably the first Loudoun County winery in place. So all of those stars were aligning. But where I think that a lot of the growth and expansion happened was in the early 1990s. And that was when, the Board of Supervisors at that time, Loudoun County Economic Development, looked at the growth of vineyards and wineries as a really great opportunity for Loudoun County, but also as a way to preserve the rural landscape and to keep valuable land in agricultural use. And I have always lived in Western Loudoun. I live in Waterford now. And so it really helps to set that DC's wine country, that feel of, so close to the nation's capital, but within minutes in rolling hills and vines and horses. So Visit Loudoun in 2011 launched the brand DC's Wine Country. And it really has resonated. It has been something that we, not only in the tourism and hospitality community, have gotten behind, but also the business community, everybody throughout all of Loudoun County and beyond. It really looks at DC's Wine Country as an incredibly valuable brand. And it's really helped us position it as we develop the trails that you're speaking about. And really, our role is in telling the wonderful story that we have in Loudoun. And it is an easy sale to make. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet, you have to excuse me. My mind kind of drifted because I was thinking about your husband, and I was like, he brings his date down to Middleburg on the first date, and then they hang out with winemakers. I'm like, he was in there. That was a good way to go. I'll have to remember that. Now I guess to count up till now, I think I got this off of your website. I think there are now more than 40 wineries and tasting rooms in Loudoun now. Is that about right?
Yeah, a little bit, around 50. And so not all the wineries are open, or all the vineyards are open, but yeah, we're right around 50.
Yeah. I've noticed, and I said it's, really blossomed when I went back to there. It seemed to me, in my my drunk history, as they say, it seems to me that around the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there, that the winemakers there as a whole really got serious about what they were doing, and they, some of them even pulled up vines and replanted, and really decided we're going to make this a destination for wine. And I really applaud them. But I don't think that's possible, and that's why you're on here. I don't think that's possible. It's possible to do that completely successfully without some arm of the government or of the community to really support that. And I think that you've done that. I went to your website, which I have to admit, because my website is a mess. Your website is really beautiful. And so I said, well, let me just look at other ones. And I went to like the Paris tourist office. And I'll have to tell you, I'm not telling you this just because you're on the show. Your website is better than the Paris tourist office.
All right. We can just stop the conversation now. We've got it on tape. This is great.
It is. I mean, there's so much information on there. There really is. And it's to your credit, like I said, I looked on there to see if there was, if I wanted to take a wine tour, if I wanted to research just wine, could you do it just from your website? And I believe you can. And that's really cool.
Well, it's a really important part of our product. It differentiates Loudoun County from other destinations. And again, that's where I think that DC's wine country is such an important moniker. You mentioned earlier, and just a few moments ago, about, some of those early pioneers in Loudoun County that, as you say, were ripping up and replanting. So there are their fingerprints all over Loudoun County, whether it is, and I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read Andrew Painter's book, Virginia Wine.
I have.
It's a great book, right? So Andrew talks about, of course, Archie Smith, who would have been with Meredith Vineyards right over in Fauquier. He's one of the people that I certainly remember very fondly. But Archie was one of those mad scientists and looking at what we needed to do. And then there were other really incredible people that, Lucy Morton, who is an amazing, really studying viticulture and helping to really educate people about what you need to do. People like Doug Fabioli, who is still here in Loudoun County producing incredible top-notch wines, who was really building this group of colleagues of saying, what do we need to do better, and continuing to always challenge themselves. But I do agree with you that you have to be building and looking to expand a business in a business-friendly environment. And that's where, elected officials come in. That's where the county comes in. That's where we're a separate nonprofit. We're not a part of Loudoun County. But that's where those municipal forces really come into play, because our job is to really elevate the importance of this industry so that elected officials and our community know what the value is that it brings to Loudoun County as a whole. That those open space, those preserved lands, again, the DC's wine country is really important in shaping what Loudoun County is to both the businesses who may be coming in, the people who live here, and certainly those visitors. And it's all part of the ecosystem of why it's so important to have that really close working relationship, because it helps to break down barriers. When your elected officials recognize the importance of your industry, they're going to make sure that they are supportive and helping to continue the growth. And we saw that even the Commonwealth of Virginia were very lucky at the state level, recognizing the importance of the wine industry. But also when they took the steps, I think it was back in 2017 or a little bit earlier than that, 2014, to expand the role of farm breweries, really helped us rapidly grow from bringing our first craft breweries, farm breweries in 2014 to where we are now. We have more than 40 breweries in Loudoun County, both in the urban, in our towns, and farm breweries. And it's magic to see all of these businesses and these entrepreneurs coming together to create something that is truly special.
You led me into where I was going, into the craft brewing industry. And I know that you're on like you said, you're a separate nonprofit and you're not really in the legislature or involving yourself with the legality of doing these things. But I know that there are challenges when an industry like craft brewing explodes on an area. I mean, and it's happening all over the place. But just like in Loudoun, you said, I started going to, say, wineries around 2010. And, I wasn't aware. I'm sure there was a craft beer place. Maybe there wasn't in Loudoun County, but I wasn't aware of it. Now you kind of can trip over them if you go to see them. And so how did you deal with that, at least from the tourist or from the uh, promotion end of it, when something like that really takes off, like craft beer? What effect did that have on the way you all do what you do?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We had, I served on a panel probably about 5, 6 years ago, an international panel looking at the role of craft beverages. And there was a very well-known wine destination that afterwards we were talking about the parallels and how Loudoun counties has continued to grow while their destination has somewhat become stagnant. And in that conversation, it really came into the expansion of craft beverages beyond wine, because that's what consumers were looking for. And so in the early days, when we were looking at that farm brewery legislation and helping to engage our elected officials as to why this is important, one of the things that we really settled on is we had a wonderful gentleman on our team who did one of the first visitor studies on craft brew or craft beverage connoisseurs, if you will, in Virginia. And what we found were the top 3 jobs of those who were looking to go to craft breweries or were looking for craft breweries. Technology was one, healthcare, and education. So it allowed us to kind of begin to start shaping the view of what those visitors look like to our elected officials. And one of the really cool fun facts of Loudoun County is 70% of the world's internet traffic comes through Loudoun County. So when you talk about technology jobs, when you've got people coming in for data centers, for technology, for defense contracting, they're looking for places to go have great craft beer. And so it positioned it so well to say, DC's wine country is going to continue to benefit from kind of opening the tent on bringing in other craft beverage providers. And it really has been very true because we continue to study both of those visitor segments and their profiles, and they're very closely linked. And they also will enjoy, if they are coming out as a group where you may have some wine lovers, some beer lovers, to have that variety is really important. But there's also something else to it, which I think is exciting about Loudoun County. And I think it has to do with that entrepreneurial framework that really started us in the very beginning. There are things happening at our wineries and at our breweries that aren't happening anywhere else. And you're right, you can trip over a craft beverage manufacturer or provider in most destinations. When you talk about we've got craft breweries, everyone goes, oh, ho hum, we all do.
Right.
But what you really look at is what some of these breweries are doing is fascinating. You've got places like Wheatland Spring that they are cultivating, they're harvesting and cultivating their own yeast. They're using, hops that are grown here in Loudoun County. Doug Fabioli grows hops for them. So you've got the hops, they're growing their own malt and they're sending it off to be malted and they're pulling water from their well. So it is a brewery where you could truly drink from the land. And it is creative, it is small batch, and it's a unique experience. We have other breweries like Adroit Theory that, again, are doing very cool, small batch, experimental beer that people really love. And then you have, the urban experiences that are closer to the east, Ocelot, Old Ox, that really produce great, great beer. And so the combination is there and the creativity is there. And that's, again, what I think sets Loudoun apart from other destinations.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really neat about Loudoun and this area, or at least the rural parts of the DMV, is that you have a lot of these places that can do, to an extent, a lot of vertical integration. I mean, like you were talking about Wheatland Springs, how they can use use their own ingredients that are grown on site. And I found the same thing for producers in Frederick and Frederick, Maryland, and all over the area. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing I think you have going for you, or another thing that you have going for you, is just the land itself. I mean, Loudoun County is beautiful out there. So not only do you have these people who can open up wineries and craft beverage at places, but they become destinations just because it's nice to be there. And so therefore they have now their destinations for weddings and receptions and other gatherings other than just, touring the winery and sitting down and sharing a bottle or a brew, which I think is really cool.
Oh, I agree. And I think that a couple of things have become very, very evident during COVID. And that is that people are looking for those rural opportunities or the opportunity to really embrace the outdoors. And certainly our craft beverage providers are a great way of doing that. And, wide open spaces, the beautiful countryside, what you see as the journey is as important as the destination when you get there. But all of the success has, really created wonderful opportunities. And right now, Loudoun County has more acres under vine than anywhere else in the Commonwealth of Virginia. When you talk about DC's wine country, when you talk about wine country, you envision rolling hills and vines and great food and great experiences. And Loudoun delivers on that. And I think it is that commitment to, in the western part, that commitment to agriculture and really growing as many of your products as possible right there to go from, what's being grown either locally or locally sourced is such an important part of the product and the end product that's given to the visitor. But it's also the experience. It's meeting the people who share their passion with you as to why they're doing what they're doing. And that is what I think most people want in a culinary experience, whether it is at one of our restaurants or it's one of our craft beverage providers. They want to understand the story behind the glass because that is what the connection is. Everybody can drink wine. You can't always drink wine given to you by a master craftsman who will talk to you about why this is what you should be drinking. And it's exciting.
Yeah. Tell me about the Loco Ale Trail. Because I saw that something I have not experienced yet as a beer crawl or anything, or going to check it out. But tell me a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that we learned when we developed, the wine product back in the early 1990s is it helps to kind of create clusters of wine experiences because Loudoun County is a very large destination. And if you chose a winery in the South and the North and the West, you could be, really spending a lot of time between some of those destinations. And there's value in experiencing particular regions. You'll see that throughout all of Europe when they talk about, their wine product. So there are different feelings or different experiences that you would have, whether it is up on one of the mountains, one of the valleys, it's different wine that's produced. So we really focused on creating clusters of the winery experiences. And so when we started to see the growth of the craft beer industry, we replicated that by the development of the Loco Ale Trail. And we kind of clustered it a little bit differently. It is whether they are people looking for farm brewing experiences, whether they want to experience these breweries by bike. So what can you easily access right off of the W&OD trail? What are some of those urban experiences where you would have a brewery that would be in the east, that would be, in a more urban setting, a little bit grittier feel, which is so much fun. So, and then we also did, what are the breweries in our historic downtowns, which gives you another feel. So it helps to kind of create itineraries that are easy for people to connect and to have those different experiences. we've not even talked about yet, the growth of our cideries and the fact that Catoctin Creek is in Loudoun County in Purcellville, Virginia, which was the first it's the first legal distillery in the Commonwealth of Virginia after Prohibition. So what they are producing in Purcellville, Virginia is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The quality of their product. And then we have in Middleburg, we've got, another distillery that is Mount Defiance that is producing absinthe with locally sourced wormwood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that happened. That is hot. That is exciting stuff. But you'll also see a lot of that vertical integration between even our distilleries producing for our breweries and wineries to create some of those imperial stouts, or the imperial products will come from a lot of our distilleries. There's a great synergy between all of the businesses that are within the craft beverage segment. They work together really, really well. And they also have a lot of fun together. And it's that collaboration that is so important here in Loudoun, that is producing some of the finest product, definitely in Virginia, if not in on the East Coast region. I will tell you, because I know right before we went on, went live, we were talking a little bit about some of your favorites. And we are so excited in Loudoun that this year we have the top 2 awards in the craft beverage industry here in Loudoun County. So the Governor's Cup, the top award was 868.
Yeah.
And that was in and of itself such an exciting moment to be there when they talk about it is the first wine with all Loudoun County grapes that took the Governor's Cup. That was such an exciting experience. And then we also had and they won out of more than 500 wines. Just fantastic. And then Black Hoof Brewing, right in downtown Leesburg, won the Virginia Craft Beer Cup this year. So we had both cups come to Loudoun County this year. That is a testament to the quality of what is being produced. And it's the reason why I think a lot of people's early memories in the late 80s, early 90s, it's a different scene. And it's a very different product that's being made, and it is at the top of their craft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll be happy to let you know that next week, my next show that comes, it's going to post next Tuesday, is a conversation with Scott Harris of Catoctin Creek. And he's a really good guy. And we had a great time there. And he also mentioned, and you were talking about how collaborative everyone is. To drop another name, you mentioned how when they first made Pear Brandy, it was with Doug Fabioli. Yeah. Yeah. So that was really cool. We went into COVID. I hate to bring this up, but it's very relevant. At the beginning in the middle of the spring is really when it became it was obvious that this is going to be a serious issue and we needed to take steps. So for venues, like you said, that have outside seating, like a lot of the breweries and wineries, they made adjustments, did a lot of shipping, but they made very quick adjustments. I was very impressed too, just all over. But now we're getting into some winter months where the eating and drinking outside is going to be more challenging. What have you heard, or what would you say to somebody who might be listening to this, who is saying, "Oh, wow, I'd love to go down to check out Virginia wine country, but it's getting cold. Maybe it won't be anywhere for us to go." What would you say to them about that?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One of which is, Europeans have been drinking wine outside for centuries. And, it's a whole different experience when you are bundled, when you are sitting outside drinking wine, looking at beautiful landscape, no matter what time of year. So let's just take winter as an example. So a lot of the majority of our wineries are well prepared for winter. They've got fire pits, they've got experiences out there, they have heaters. We are encouraging people to BYOB, bring their own blankets when they go out. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And people are selling hats and mittens and just getting everybody ready to experience in Virginia what people have been doing in Germany, people have been doing in France. It's something that is not necessarily intuitive for Americans to either dine outside or to drink beverages outside unless they're at a ski location. But I think that it's going to be something that people are going to really embrace, and they're ready for it. I think that it has been a saving grace for a lot of people in the region. The fact that Loudoun County has the landscapes that we do, the outdoor dining and craft beverages experiences that people really were looking for, to be able to combine a hike out in Western Loudoun County and then stop by a brewery in your hiking gear and grab a beer and stand by a fire pit. That's a great experience. It's a great day. If you are, looking to go by a fire pit in one of our wineries with a blanket on your lap and to eat, fresh, locally sourced cheese and bread and to drink wine, it is a really wonderful experience. And it's one that I know I'm looking forward to spending a lot of my weekends doing it coming up. But I also want to say that we've learned that we need to meet people where they're comfortable. And, when COVID first started hitting, you started to see some really wonderful virtual experiences come out of, like, Sarah and Nate Walsh started a wonderful series on wine tasting that really became incredibly popular. You had Lacey Huber and Jeremy at Stone Tower, where you can order ahead and have the wine flights in the comfort of your own home, by your own fireplace, and sit and talk to the winemaker and hear from them and taste those experiences safely in your own home. We are going to make sure that no matter how it happens, we are here to help you enjoy the cold winter months with some fine Loudoun County beverages.
Yeah, well, I'm a big lemonade person. When life gives you lemons, do something with it. And nobody would have opted for this, except for somebody who was very dark. However, it's given business people, and especially we're talking about here in the craft beverage industry, very creative. They've become very creative in their marketing. And I think in the long run, it's really going to help the industry that we went through this situation. Nobody would want it. And I know that their bottom lines have taken a hit. So I'm not saying that good thing it happened, but for this, as far as you were talking about is eating and drinking outside in the cold weather. I think, it's something that maybe some of the producers didn't necessarily make the capital investment to make it really comfortable, because they didn't have to, because they have a large area inside where they can bring people inside. So they didn't really think about that. But because they might be forced to now, it's opened up a whole new area for them to entertain guests in winter months. And I think that'll work out very well.
A new market opportunity. I would agree with that. And also keep in mind that, our breweries and wineries will also be able to accommodate you inside as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always encourage people to do is to really take a look at, your favorite winery, your brewery, distillery on their Facebook page to see what their reservation systems might be. I will tell you, I think that the elevation of the experience has certainly happened because of COVID, because we're recognizing the importance of reservations and that face-to-face experience. It kind of slows us down a little bit to really provide outstanding experiences. But you've got, it's funny, there was a great session I heard recently where you have our wineries who are looking at felled trees and cutting them and creating, seating areas out of stumps. And then you've got, which is a great look and a great feel on a blustery day. And then you have people that are, creating fire pits out of different materials. So I think that the investment portion certainly could sound daunting, but you can also make really wonderful seating areas very effectively. And they're committed to do that. And the thing that I think that is a hallmark of hospitality, no matter where you are, is really understanding the importance of cleaning and sanitation. And this is us, Loudoun County really are focusing on the importance of providing that level of sanitation to keep our visitors safe.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm certainly going to, and I'm one of those people. I'm a native Washingtonian, but I'm not a cold weather person. So I was somebody who, if we can't go inside, then I'm not going to go. But I do love wine and craft beer, and I'm not going to not go visit wine country because of it. And so it's going to open up some more avenues for myself and some more experiences. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, and one of the things that you can do is always curbside pickup, take it home. One of the great hallmarks of a experience in a brewery or winery is quite often the live music.
Yes.
And so we have worked with a couple of our amazing singer-songwriters in Loudoun County to curate Loudoun County playlists of all Loudoun County artists. So if you decide to light a fire and have a bottle of wine at home, you can bring Loudoun County right to your radio and listen on your smart speaker to some really fantastic music. It'll almost make it feel like you're there. But it certainly will add to the experience.
Well, something for all my guests is that I put their website in the show notes, and I'll do the same with Visit Loudoun. And I'd like to encourage everyone listening, if you're interested in investigating what's in Loudoun County, I wasn't just blowing smoke when I said that they have an excellent website, and they have a great directory of all the craft beverages there. And you'll be able to go to the individual businesses' website and do what Beth suggests and call and see what their reservation policy is and what they're going to be doing during these winter during COVID. So, Beth, I thank you for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the time is yours. Tell us about why we should come down to Loudoun County and drink.
I think just a couple of other things I would add in, especially as you're coming into the holiday season, is just make sure that you are buying local. We have launched a Take Loudoun Home campaign, which is really helping to drive home the point that, these are all small businesses, whether they are agricultural producers, whether they're small retail shops, craft beverage producers. Make sure that you're supporting local. So I will also provide you the information with the Take Loudoun Home website so people can take a look at what those offerings are. And when you're coming out, I will also say, don't forget the fact that we've got some really wonderful accommodations to make a weekend out of it. We have Loudoun County is well known for our resorts, our hotels, our bed and breakfasts. To really flush out the full experience, they're all ready for you, and they are, we'll make sure that they're delivering an outstanding experience to you. So don't make it just an afternoon, make it a weekend, and we'd love to see you. And I'm happy to help create an itinerary for anyone, because I want to tell you something. I love Loudoun County, and I have the best job in the world. And I cannot be more thankful to have been invited out to dinner in 1987. And look where it's led. So it's a beautiful thing.
Well, amen to that. And I'm going to have to thank Bill for recommending that I get in touch with you, because you have delivered everything that I hoped. So thank you again for being on the show. And I look forward to maybe bumping into you, maybe not literally bumping into you, but seeing you out and about in Loudoun County. Thank you very much, Beth.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
You have been listening to Barrel Tasting with Howard Fletcher, part of the Fletcher Podcast Group. You can reach Howard at his website, barreltastingpod.com. I'm Asia Blue. Thanks for listening. See you next time.